Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 65. This is One Day Today. I hope everyone's had a great holiday week, a great just time with their family near and afar. I wasn't able to visit my family because of COVID, and I still had a great week. But I really want to just kick off this first post Turkey Day episode, just kind of recapping just the experience of what's happening. This is for everybody. I think we can just say across the board, this year has gone very unexpectedly. There's a lot of things that have closed, but there's also many things that have opened up, and that's really what we're focused on here. Is even with the pandemic, even with the political polarity, all the things happening, there are still people, despite the fear, despite the chaos, who are helping, who are part of the solution, who are contributing their gifts, their talents to enrich us all, and to make this experience of for themselves, for their neighbors, for their children, for their children's children, something that we all benefit, and we all create a space that we can really focus on what's beautiful for each other and with each other. And it's just really just for me, just why I've been so inspired to just even have this space in the first place is just what's possible when we stand and hold the space for who we truly are. Beyond our fears, beyond what's happening on the external world, like we have so much power in this present moment to just create and focus and be intentional with the beauty that surrounds us, and the community and the connection, and just just being the helping hand for our neighbor, whether they live right next to us or whether they live across the world. We're all neighbors. We all have so much. We all are affected by each other, and the energy that we and what we share, what we provide for ourselves and our community is ultimately what enriches us all. And that's what this space is for, is to really to share your gift and to share. So we have a space for you to share what you have to offer this world, but also just we wanna hear what you've experienced and what you've gone through in this new experience of the world, and what you're creating with all this happening. And there's some beautiful people, and I'm humbled every day by every episode we've had. They're just, especially with all that's going on in the world, the beauty that I'm present to is just like astounding, and it's just inspiring. And really, when you focus on that, when you focus on just the beautiful things happening and the people who are up to amazing things, it's just, there's no limit. There's just an abundance of just extraordinary people who are not only making a difference, but who are just making the world better in every place they exist, and every place they touch, and every person they touch. It's a beautiful thing to experience when you actually focus on it. But first, before we introduce our guest, let me introduce and welcome Matthew, our co-host. I was hoping you were going to be wearing the shades again. How's it going,
I mean,
brother?
I can slip them back on real quick. Like these are my fancy shades. Like whoa, doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. For the first time, I actually got some like real rest, which I kind of like forgot about was an option. Like I've been overworked and underslept for the past as long as I could remember, and I was like, it takes a holiday, I guess, for me to just like sleep in, and that was much needed. So I'm doing well. I feel recharged, rejuvenated, and new obstacles and hills kind of climbing and facing the great unknown and the great adventure of what's in front of me.
And what's the lesson in that?
Well, there's a lot of lessons in that. We could have a whole episode about that, but primarily, I would say the lesson is, being integral with my health and my well-being is allows me to excel in every area of my life. I pretend what I pretended is that I could sneak in extra hours of my day and not be affected, not be impacted by it. Well, I've been working all day, but if I stay up even later and just pretend that doesn't matter, I'm just gonna pretend that I can wake up and not be affected. But it just kept compounding. So the lesson is really just having grace, and for myself to really be energized and to be inspired and to be intentional. Just going to bed with purpose, but also waking up with purpose.
Yeah, and it's that intentional part, like being intentional. Um, and what exactly does that mean? Like to me, intentional means like it's the intention I set for myself. It's what I
Mm,
hold. It's what I manifest. It's what I create,
mm,
and like that to me, everything starts with intention, and intention comes from intuition. So if I'm not tuned into my intuition, I'm not
mm.
tuned into that higher self, that divine, whatever you want to call it, um, then everything else is off immediately, including the intention.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And I think the
And
word, yeah, like it's for me, like what you're just saying is clarity. It's like the
yeah,
clarity of intention comes from my connection to the intuition or not. And it's like I see, and that's kind of what I'm recognizing is my clarity of my intentions allows me to like not like sometimes. So this is what just to be just vulnerable, sometimes when I go to bed, I'll be, even if I got everything done and a million things done, I will focus on the 3 things or 10 things that I didn't do, and I will just do like I didn't do enough, and I'll go to bed just incomplete, feeling like I didn't, just unfulfilled, and then I'll wake up and I just won't wake up powerfully, and it's like the intention of going to bed powerfully, but also waking up powerfully. It's like I can create my day and generate power and purpose right when I lift my head off the pillow, and I've not allowed myself to do that because I've gone to bed feeling incomplete and like I'm lacking, and I'm focusing on what's not working or what I haven't done yet, and it's just not a recipe for success.
it's like it's so simple too. Like it's all it takes is just tuning in each one of those things. Is it appropriate for me to finish this now? And if that intuition
Mm.
is no, then that's it. Like it's done.
Right.
It gets that simple. Like and then
Right.
like and then I go to bed clear, like you were saying, like then it's I don't have to go to bed with my mind wondering all the time. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything is already settled because I've already checked in about every single thing my mind has brought up and cleared it with my intuition, cleared it with the divine, my higher self, whatever. And so I'm complete when I go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm integral. I am in integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, out like a light, man.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep like a baby.
At that point, your dreams are working for you, and you're doing all the magic for the next day. You're already getting prepared before you even
Exactly.
wake up. I love it. Well,
Yeah,
I wanna.
it's funny. Just real quick, it's like there's I like
Mhm.
before we bring Todd on, 'cause this is something that came up and it feels appropriate to share. It's funny that we're talking about this, like me being back on Hawaii because the Hawaiian, like the old Hawaiian culture, and this is coming from the Kahuna that I worked with for a long time over in Hilo. Um, their day started at sunset the day before,
Hmm.
and the reason why was so that they could begin to intend and manifest the day they were going to live when they woke up in the morning. So their dreams were part of their day, and like the way they set their intention was at night, and they would literally 100% personal responsibility for everything, starting at sunset to manifest and live the next day.
Wow, sounds powerful. And
Very
yet
much so.
another reason for me to go to Hawaii, and as if I needed more reasons.
Right?
So let me now. I'd be really excited to introduce our guest today. We have with us Todd Le Bouef. Todd, welcome. So glad to have you.
Well, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you both for inviting me. I think this platform is awesome to be able to, allow those of us to share our voice, the challenges that we've had in our lives, and to be of service to others, to, share those things that we've learned from those lessons in our lives, those challenges with others, because I think a lot of us feel like we're alone. Nobody understands.
Mm,
So, I'm very
absolutely.
honored to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, the honor is ours, and I think it's so powerful what you said. So I really appreciate those words. Thank you. But I'm really excited. We chatted, I think a week or two ago, and I'm really excited for you to hear more about your story. So I'm just going to let you, if you're good with it, I'm going to let you have at it and say, Todd, the stage is yours.
Well, we'll give it the old college try. But no, I am currently writing a book. I have no timeline for it. I'm not rushing it. Whenever it's done, it's done. But it's called Create the Life That You Desire. And it's basically a memoir of my life and the challenges that I faced and how I overcame them and to where I am at this point. So I just started the book. And like I said, I have no timeline, but I'm excited, and I can't wait for it to be published to hopefully help those out there who have similar challenges that I faced through my life so far. So basically, it starts with when I was born. I was born with nerve deafness, 60% hearing loss. I, as a young child, a toddler, taught myself to read lips. I think my family had a suspicion something wasn't quite right, but I was so adept at reading lips that I think I fooled them. But it wasn't until I went into kindergarten, I got registered for kindergarten. My parents, getting me set up to start school, and they did a hearing test, and that's when they found out, yes, I have a hearing issue with 60% hearing loss. So from that point, hearing aids came onto the scene, and I was living in a semi-silent world. And to explain, to give an idea of what I hear without hearing aids is, imagine you have earphones on with the padded type, and someone actually talks to you, and it's that muffled sound. So that's what I hear. I can hear it, but I cannot clearly understand what they're saying. So hearing aids came on the scene, and there was a huge transition to be put in the hearing world because I wasn't used to all the sounds around me. I remember right after I got my hearing aids, my mom and I were in town, the hometown that I grew up in, and the fire trucks were called to an emergency, and I'd never heard sirens before. And I was just beside myself trying to figure out what that noise was. Like, Mom, what's that noise? What's that noise? So she explained to me what it was, and knowing where it was coming from and why, it kind of helped calm me down a little bit. I remember another time I was out with my dad, and I could hear birds singing, and I'm like, "What's that noise, Dad?" And he goes, "Those are birds singing. That's the bird song." So it was just that idea of learning all the different sounds in the hearing world, which was huge for me. I then went into first grade. I had to repeat first grade twice. My first year of first grade was a horrible, horrible time for me. The teacher that was my first grade teacher at that time, I don't think she really liked herself, but she didn't really like me from the get-go. I don't think she really understood how to deal with a child with a hearing challenge or any kind of challenges. I was always in trouble for everything, whether it was my fault or not. And it was just a very bad experience for my first year of first grade of elementary school. Her room was very cold. She was very cold towards me. Her room was not very interactive. And like I said, I had to repeat first grade. So entering into the fall of the next year, my parents made sure that I was with the other teacher. And I was apprehensive about going to back to school. I was like, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And my parents assured me that it would be a better situation. So I went along and went to the first day of class, and it was like night and day. I walked into the classroom, and it was very bright. It was very cheery. She had colorful bulletin boards, terrariums, aquariums, very interactive games out for us to play. It was just an entirely different energy and environment. She was very bubbly, very nice teacher. And I remember walking into class one day, and I was like, just kind of scanning the room. Of course, with I kind of hear with my eyes, so to speak. They are my hearing as well. And I caught eye of my teacher, and she motioned me for me to come to her desk. And my first thought went negative from my experience from the year before, and I thought, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? I did something wrong. So I timidly went up to her desk and I said good morning. She said good morning. She was whispering to me, and I didn't understand why she was whispering. And she explained to me that she had laryngitis. She woke up with laryngitis that morning and she could not talk. And she knew that I could read lips and would I help her teach the class. And I was just like, wow, that is awesome. And of course, I agreed that I would do it. And I thought, what a great way to use my ability in such a positive way. And, she didn't dumb me down. And I thought that was brilliant of her to do that. And it just boosted my confidence like right through the roof. And it was years later that she received the Teacher of the Year award. And I was like, bravo, I can totally see why. So she was an inspiration to me starting out. It's too bad that I didn't have her for the first year, but I'm also a believer that things happen for a reason. So as I'm going through elementary school, I had a hard time. Math was my worst subject. And my dad, he was a tough man to live with. He had very high expectations of me. Instead of trying to meet me where I was at to try to help me, he just said, this is what I expect of you. I know you can do this. You're better than that, and so on and so forth. And that really put a lot of pressure on me. It's like, I had a hard time. I just could not live up to his expectations. And I didn't realize till later on in life that those were actually expectations on himself that he was projecting onto me. So, it was just a very tough time. He also, like, if I would like to try to explain to him what I was feeling and how I was feeling, he would say, well, children are to be seen and not heard unless spoken to. And I was just like, I really literally took that, to mean I had no voice. I could not say anything. I had to be that quiet little child and just go along with everything. So as I grew up into adulthood, I carried that with me and I became intimidated by authority figures. They knew best. I couldn't say anything against them. I had no opinion, which, made me very intimidated by them. And I became their doormat. And it wasn't until I was in my 50s, I have lower back challenges. I was introduced to a friend of a friend, and even though we had just met, it was like we had known each other for years. It was just one of those connections. And she shared with me about Reiki. She said, have you ever heard of Reiki, the energy work Reiki? And I said, no, I've never heard of that in my life. So she explained to me what it was and did a session on me. And I was amazed after the session, my pain level was down, but what I noticed the most was how centered I felt, how balanced I felt. And I thought, well, this is really cool. And at that point, I was coming to the end of a career. I worked in a print shop as a production floor manager, and I had been there for many, many years. And I was kind of gearing up towards retirement. And I went there at such a young age that I was just 2 months shy of 37 years, and I was only 56 years old when I retired. Very grateful that I was able to do that. It was time for a change. So, I moved towards that and I opened up a business, very small part-time business, never intended it to be a huge deal. But, I wanted to work with clients in a small way to be able to be of service to help them with what I experienced, to pass along that gift. And so also a friend of mine shared with me a book by Don Miguel Ruiz called The Four Agreements. And that really changed my perspective of life and how I was viewing things. So that was a huge transformation for me. So that's basically my story. And I, just wanted to share that with all you guys.
Thank you for sharing your story, Todd, and just your experience of growing up. I just appreciate you. I just appreciate your, we'll just starting off from the beginning. How you grew up with this, these hearing challenges that you did, your parents didn't know until you were tested, and how that, maybe I'm sure how that affected you in a lot of your life, and it probably gave you accentuated other things that you like, how you probably could see better. You could see things that others couldn't see. You could probably your other senses. It's intriguing how the senses work. When one is kind of dulled, others are enhanced.
Exactly. You're right, spot on. My sense of smell and taste are very heightened. So that's very true. Very true. It's just interesting when you said that. It's like that was the immediate thing I thought of was your other senses are heightened.
Right. So I would love to hear, like, so in your experience of of growing up and just what led you here. When did you discover, or how and when did you discover, overcoming that, not only the fear of, or the, what you're talking about with authority, but how did you discover your own power? What you're capable of in your own power, in your own skin. Like, what was there a moment? Was there something that happened, or was there a realization? I mean, was it the four agreements?
It was a collective of things, as I worked on my spiritual journey, which started in 2012. I was in a very dark place. I was in a married relationship that was very toxic. And, I'm an empath, which means that I can feel vibrations of other different types of energy, whether it's just in my environment or from other people. And, that makes me very sensitive to others. And it's interesting because, when you are around narcissistic people, the empath and the narcissist really, in the beginning, start to mesh, but it becomes very toxic because the empath wants to try to change and heal the other person, and we can't do that. So that was one thing I learned, was I can't change or heal anyone but me. So that's where it started. And yes, reading the Four Agreements was another. Reiki was also very instrumental in my spiritual journey and becoming balanced and centered. And, that was a huge transformation for me. I've been doing Reiki since 2012. So I attribute that to be a huge help.
That journey that you talk about, while each of us seem to have our own unique journey, there is that common theme of overcoming, remembering, coming back to that essence of what we are, it seems like. And I kind of wonder if you just talk a bit about where you are today with this. Like, what is present for you now? How are you feeling about everything that's happened up until now?
That's a good question. I am definitely not the person I was 8 years ago. First off, I wouldn't be here. It's just not my comfort zone to put myself in front of other people. So this is a huge step in that by itself, in of itself. You have to learn to believe in yourself and believe that, you have something to offer and to be of service of other people. And, I at first didn't think that I had that, but we all do. We all have that power within us. And we have to harness that power within us and not let social conditioning or other people tell you otherwise. And that's what happened to me, is I let other people tell me otherwise. I was not worth it. I didn't have anything to offer, and that is so damaging, because you believe it. And particularly as an empath, that really hit deep when that happens. So I just became to the point where collectively between, reading and Reiki and working with other people, because I believe I'm a teacher, but I'm also a student. So I'm learning from other people as well. So I hope that answers your question, Matt.
Like, children are meant to be heard and not, or seen and not heard. And this is something like,
Matthew, your connection's getting a little bit funky here.
I feel like Is it choppy? Am I back?
The beginning of what
not
I
hear
hear
me
you
now?
now, but just a second
Maybe.
ago, it was kind of alien
Okay.
sound.
Cool. So I'm being supported off apparently. Um, that did you like bring it to your dad what he said? Did you hear that part?
It's
It must be
it's a
choppy.
little bit funky still, a little funky still.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna give your internet just a second. I had a thought I wanted to just kind of what I really related with a lot what you were saying, Todd, about it's just like the for me it's like the worthiness, growing up without even knowing it. I didn't really necessarily know that I fit in or I felt different, and I mean I feel like everyone's had some version of this conversation within themselves, but I've always managed myself without knowing it most of my childhood that I wasn't enough and that the world was dismissive or rejecting, and I had to I had to hide that because I didn't want other people to know that I wasn't enough, or that deep down who I wasn't enough. So I had to almost prove it, so I was codependent. I would blow whichever way the wind was blowing with the forces that be, whatever group I was around, or whether it was a group of friends or acquaintances, whatever their beliefs were or whatever they wanted to do, that's what I wanted to do. Just it's like I was almost like I was almost like too afraid to have my own desires, my own wants. Like it was like, and did you have any experience like that where you kind of were at the effect of everything else, but you yourself couldn't actually show up towards do you understand what I mean? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I do. As a kid growing up, and especially in school, when you start school, kids are very mean. I was bullied into the fact where, what are those things in your ears? Why do you have those in there? They make you look retarded or whatever. And I hate that term, but that's what they used to say to me. And that, I wasn't worthy enough. I didn't look right. You're very different. And, when that happens, it really, like I said, it hits deep and it makes you feel like you're not worthy. It's like you have nothing to offer anybody. So when I had to be put in situations where I had to be front and center, that wasn't me. I wanted to be behind the scenes to be able to help behind the scenes. I didn't need that shining. I didn't need to be that shining star. So I get what you're saying totally. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthew, if you want to chime in now, I think your connection looks a little better.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes, I was bringing it back to what your dad said about children are meant to be seen and not heard. And this question of what is our deepest motivations for everything? Where's the source for every action we take come from? And parents, I feel like most people on the planet today who have kids have not had kids intentionally. They have not actually tuned into their intuition, tuned into their higher self, tuned into God, whatever, and really said, is this for me right now? And gotten a yes from it, and then invited that soul into their lives. And to me, that is the source of untold suffering. And what you said about your dad, that very much lines up with how I see it. And I just kind of wonder, does that resonate with you? And if so, are there any particular experiences where you can pull that out and in your own childhood and kind of talk about maybe how you overcome that or accepted that, or come to the point where you accept being here or you chose to be here for yourself instead?
It took me many years. Excuse me. It wasn't until I was in my 50s, unfortunately. But then again, things happen for a reason. to take me that long to come to terms with, I am worthy. I do have a voice. I can share things. I have opinions. But it took a lot of work in that period of time. Not so much, from the time that I was a child to age 50, because I was so wrapped up in, social conditioning. I have to look a certain way. I have to be a certain way. I was always concerned about what other people thought. And now I don't care. This is me. I'm authentically me. And if you like it, fine. If you don't, that's okay. I don't have any attachment to it. Whereas before I did. I was very attached to the outcome of how I presented myself, how I looked, because of the bullying that took place growing up as a child. That they, put that thing in my mind. It's very, very damaging. But you just get to the point where you have that little worry in your heart that says you have to believe in you, and you have to, believe that you are worthy. It took a long time.
Yeah, that's powerful. And one question that kind of comes to me is like, just going through this journey, and especially, in the last, 8 years, it sounds like, when you first started, your own spiritual exploration, like what do you say, or what do we do individually and collectively? What do we say and do with those who are lost and looking, who still feel unworthy, who still feel they're looking for their, not only their worthiness, but they're searching to see what's missing, and they're eager to overcome. They know something, they know there's something in the way, but they don't know how to get there. And like almost like, what do you say to you before you discover this? Where it's like, what do we do with the people who are still feeling lost and not sure what to do, especially in this new climate of the world?
Well, I'm going to share. I've been told I have this gift of listening. I think that is the key. I have a very dear friend. We have a lot of conversations, and she'll share things with me, and I'll just listen, because I think as a society, we tend to jump to try to resolve another person's situation instead of listening. Because a lot of times, and my view on this is, my thought process is, sometimes when we talk, we hear ourselves. And we get caught up in that ego mind of ours, that monkey mind, where we just keep, the record skipping is playing over and over and over again. And we lose touch of our higher self. And when I allow someone to share with me what they're feeling or situation they're in or what they're facing, I just let them talk, because eventually they hear themselves and their higher self kicks in, and we all have the answers within us. We all have the answers within us, as long as we don't lose connection of our higher self. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's really powerful, and I think that's true. It's like for us to be able to, because a lot of time we don't distinguish that the thought, like the voices in our head, because we have the thoughts will come even when we're not, and it's like we don't distinguish between, whether it's the monkey mind and our true self and our ego, our shadow, our flesh, whatever distinction you want to use that points to that. But I think that's so true. And just what you're talking about, listening, it's something that, especially I could 100% agree in my own experience, like just where communication, the idea of communication, you think is just talking, but it's really, talking means nothing without the space of listening. And it's like listening is almost more important than the talking, because when you're listening, you are providing space for discovery, for new insights, for new action, new conversations. And it's, because if we're just talking always, there's nothing to learn. There's nothing. It's just, we're just recycling the same old thought patterns, the same old record skipping. And I think, is that something that came for you naturally, or did you discover the power of listening when other people, you observed other people's actions?
Not until I started the spiritual journey, because I used to be one of those ones to try to solve other people's problems. And I realized there again, as I said earlier, I can't change anybody. I can't help them. I can't fix them. I can only fix me. So through that process, I realized that sometimes people just need to be heard. They just need to be, just to listen to them. And like I said, once they connect with their higher self, as I was talking about my friend, she's like, oh my God, that's the answer. And just by listening, and she says, you just have that gift of being able to just be there and hold the space to listen. So I think that's very important. It just take time to give others the honor of their time, just to give them space to talk. There are times I will share different things. I might pose a question back to them.
What was that, Matthew?
Go ahead. And is my connection breaking up again?
It's okay right now. It's just maybe a little delayed.
Okay. That to me feels like the key is like listening is holding space for the other.
Mm-hmm.
Like you really hit the nail on the head with that one. And it's not just like I can feel it from you. Like when you're here with us, you're not just listening with your head. You're present with your entire self. And that creates a very different type of space in my experience. And it invites vulnerability.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's working from the heart, being heart-centered also, I believe.
Yeah,
when you connect with someone else in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean,
Absolutely.
we can just let people talk for years and years and years and years. They'll never get anywhere. But if we invite them to be vulnerable by holding that space, by listening,
Yep.
that is a very different experience.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's powerful. Go ahead, Matthew.
I was just wondering, like, who was the first person you really listened to, and how did you observe that experience?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? So it's kind of windy. I can't hear you.
Oh, who was the first person that you really remember listening to, like really holding space for it, and what was your observation of that experience?
It's actually my friend. She's one of my best friends, and it just kind of came about. I just sat there and listened to her, but just give her that space. And after she talked and talked and talked, I could see she was connecting, letting go of the monkey mind, and it was like that expression on her face. She's like, "Oh my God, there's the answer." And I didn't really realize that I was doing that. It just came about. And it's like, at that point, she said, "You really have a gift of doing that." And it's like, okay, humble me, like, okay. So, but yeah, I think it's really important to give that, the person that space.
Absolutely. I think it's something that it's funny. It hadn't occurred to me the power of listening, until I was fully listened to. Like, wait a minute, like there's so much in our listening that we overlook. I mean, I've never lived anywhere but here, but I feel like it's a Western society. I mean, we're afraid of silence, and I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I just feel like just if you I mean, this is visually, but it's also like just if you watch TV, if you listen to radio, if you go on a drive, you see it's like the space is something that is so few and far between unless we're intentional about it, unless we hold that space. So it's like it's so powerful to hold that silence and to just receive what's being put out there, and it we're almost like not used to it. So there is some like mystical power to listening that you don't really think about until you actually experiencing it.
But it's in the silence that you hear the most. It's in the silence when you hear the most. It's just when you have all the chatter going on, you're not going to hear what you need to hear.
Right. Oh, that's so true. I mean, internally and externally, it's the silence is what allows us to discover something outside of the noise that we're just familiar with, and the silence is such a meditative experience that you don't think of it. You just think of it as nothing. And from the mind standpoint, it's nothing. It's like there's nothing there. Like I'd rather there be something. And it's like, but from the space of like openness, like everything happens in silence. Like no sound can happen without silence. No thing can exist without space. And it's like the space is what allows the discovery to happen.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you some more questions about we were talking about this game you're creating. I want to hear more about that. But real quick, I want to check in with the audience and say hello. But we'll be right back in just a real quick moment with Todd Le Bouef. But I want to invite you all to share with us on this stage. Why we're here is not for me. It's not for any individual. We are here to share your gifts. This space. Speaking of holding the space, we are holding the space for you and your gifts, your genius. We recognize that you have something that nobody else has. Nobody else has what you have to offer. We each have gifts that enriches us, as a society, as just in our relationships, but also as a collective. You have some insight, you have some experiences that allows us to grow and to be greater together. And I want to invite you. This stage is for you to really share your experience of what you've overcome. What did you face? What's the thing that held you back for your entire life until you discovered something in it, the opportunity in the obstacle? What allowed you to discover who you truly are? We want to hear your stories of what you've overcome that have allowed you to be in this place that you're contributing to something greater than yourself, and something that who you are is a gift that we all receive. And that's why we're holding this space, and that's part of what our mission here at One Day is, bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And that's what this stage is about, and that this is an open invitation. So now I would like to go back to our guest, Todd. Welcome back, and long time no see. So you told me briefly when we spoke, Todd. I know you're creating a game that really sounds like it's what it's turning out to be is really powerful, and I would love for you to share with us about what you're creating and what your intentions are and where you're at with it.
So I'm not actually the creator. The creator of the game is Gabriella Del Cadillo. She is a dear friend of mine, also a life coach. She's a business strategist. She's been doing this type of stuff for 40 years, very spiritual. She is the one that I connected up with through my blogs to write a spiritual deck. I wrote a deck of cards called Crystals and Angels that will be paired with the game. The game will have several different decks of cards. It will have different genres, different topics. Like I said, it is very fun, it's very educational, but it can also be very healing. I'm going to be one of the first game masters of many to facilitate and coach the game, to coach people with the game. So my experience with Reiki and the things that I've done will pair well with being the facilitator of the game. Gabriella is a mastermind. She is brilliant. This game is awesome. I've had the chance to play it. I have a prototype of it. It's not quite ready. We're hoping that it will be launched in the early part of 2021. She's also working on a global platform, an online platform for coaching to the masses globally. So the game will be played through the Coach Talk Cafe, and there may be some other things coming that I can't really share, but at this point it's not launched. But yeah, I think this game is really gonna catch fire. So.
Mentioned before in the chat that it was like a game of enlightenment.
Called the Game of Enlightenment.
Is that how you put it?
It deals with your 5 senses. So, as a game master, I'll have a melting pot with a very light fragrance, so that excites the sense of smell. I'll have music playing in the background that will excite the sense of hearing. Uh, we will have a tea ceremony, which is part of the game, which will go along with the sense of taste. Of course, the sight is the ambiance of the room, and so it prepares you to be more centered and balanced to play the game and be open to it. So.
That's awesome. So for people, I'm just curious because I think it's fascinating and it's a beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful reason or intention to create a game. But so like, what is the experience of people who do play the game? Is it, obviously it's educational and it's healing, but is it, like what are the types of things that people could expect from a game that?
So there are deck cards, like Gabby's deck is the first one of the game. She is a world-renowned artist. She does beautiful paintings, and on one side of the deck are her actual prints of her paintings. And so I will have the person, part of her creation of this game was to, excite all the five senses, but to take a look at the card and what does it represent to them? Because everybody has a different perception of things. So I'll have the person look at the picture and for about 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and then they will share with the group what they see. And sometimes I might ask the group real quickly, one or two words off the top of their head, what they see in the picture. Then on the other side is a value, which talks a little bit about, what that particular card might be, which might be love. So there might be something about love on that card. Then there's an affirmation. Then there's an actual, what's called a mode of action, which is an exercise that the players can, it's very interactive. So from that, in my experience, I've played the game a couple of times in person with just a couple of people, safe environment, of course, with COVID, but, there's been some laughing, there's been some crying, but sometimes it's crying of tears of joy because they recognize where they are at that point, that they're healing, they're on their journey. Sometimes it is a tears of release. It's a healing. It's to release something that is holding you back. So this game can be very beneficial for coaches as well because they can use this for the client. So
very cool. So
how close are you guys to launch, and are you looking for coaches at all right now?
Yes, there's a page called Coach Talk Cafe on Facebook. So you can go there and you can learn all about, what it has to offer. Like I said, it's in the working stages right now. It's not fully developed, but it's pretty exciting. It's a big wave coming. So it's going to be a new type of coaching for online platform for the masses.
Very cool. So is it something that people will? It's a physical product, or is it also, because you said online? So is it something that people will be able to interact over online?
For the Coach Talk Cafe?
Yeah. Is the game also something that they interact with online?
It can be, yes. They can also purchase it. It's actually a tangible game that they can purchase as well.
That's awesome. I mean, I think it's pretty. I mean, it's exciting to, things are. I love it when things are created like beneficial. A game that's beneficial that can be therapeutic, that can point us to ourselves. I think it's such a, it's amazing. To me, just like, I mean, the the full spectrum of the people that are on this stage and the different, just how I'm just amazed by the different. There's so many different ways people are approaching the same thing. How can I be beneficial? How can we help support each other? How can I support myself, my family, my community, my country, my world? How can I support? How can I bring more joy and less and alleviate suffering? And I think that's great that you're creating this game and that it's already, it sounds like it's even in the early stages before launch, it's already impacting people. And I think it's just, I'm just excited about what's to come. And, with just all these beautiful things opening. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, but, and what I've seen from COVID, and especially from, just being in quarantine, is people are longing to be a part of the solution of
Yep.
the healing that of these old generational wounds, these old, physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual toxicities that have been the normal state of reality. And it's funny because saying like, well, when will things be back to normal? And it's just like normal was toxic, and now it's like we're kind of seeing that. But I just think it's amazing. I mean, this is kind of just part of this the mechanism of discovering our true self. Is It's like the irony is like we find our own purpose in how we can serve others, and it's something that's beautiful because I think, but I'd love to hear your experience of what you've seen opening up in the world, just with the state of the world. Like what do you see? Like what have you seen?
I
That's
agree
opened up?
with you. It's just right now people are looking for comfort because of what is the new normal. Normal's not like we used to know it.
Mm-hmm.
We're becoming very lonesome because we really can't be with other people because of the pandemic. And I think that, you're spot on with that. Exactly. People are looking for comfort. They're looking for different ways to work through this stuff, through the loneliness, through, whatever the challenges are. We just have to do it in a different way. And I think Gabby's creation of the game and her creation of the Coach Talk Cafe is a perfect example of that, because there are a lot of us out there who coach in some form or another. She's also has created a master's certification for coaching course, a 16-week course, and it's pretty intensive. So we're all prepared to be able to help the masses, to help other people in the different things that we do. So for in my case, I'll be the game master of the game. Others will do whatever they coach in, life coaching, or it could be anything. Diet, it could be dietitian, it could be anything. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a spiritual thing.
Right. So no matter the practice or what field of coaching, people will be able to find it beneficial, or they can support their clients and people in their lives in a gamified way.
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome. So before we end here, I'd love to give you an opportunity, Todd, if you have any last thoughts or anything you'd like to share, just about your experiences, and where you're at now and where you see yourself going, but also what's opening up and what's possible, and who you're being in the world.
I just want to be of service to help people because I know what I've gone through, the challenges that I have faced, and I may approach them differently than anyone else, but I'd be happy to share with others who come to me for coaching or whatever, to share with them. And it's also part of my book as well, of how I overcame some of those challenges. And I just think it's really important to share our voice, like you guys are offering this platform for us to share that voice, because there's someone out there that's going to hear that voice. They're going to resonate with that. And I think the biggest thing is, if you believe in yourself, anything is possible.
Powerful.
Oh, Todd, thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'm very honored that I was able to be here and to share this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the pleasure and the honor is all ours, Todd. I just acknowledge you, what you're up to and who you're being in the world, and also just how you are living the life of service, how you have, through your experiences and through your discovering of yourself, how you are reciprocating this gift that you've discovered in yourself and sharing it with us all. And I think that's really what inspires me every day. And I just think you are an actualized, just just through the mechanism of our own discovery of ourselves, in human, and how the human spirit, through our dark night of the soul, we discover the light. And it's like, and I just really feel privileged that you're just sharing with us your insights and your wisdom, and just like the beautiful work that you're up to and that you're committed to. And I just thank you so much for being here. And I would hope you'll, when the books come in, or when the games come in, we'd love to have you back and have a share more with us.
Definitely, yeah, that would be awesome. I'll keep you posted. No, I just think that, it's always a mirror in life. There's a mirror that comes back at us. And, there are lessons from that. And, instead of looking at, well, why me, or why did that happen to me, say, well, why not? How can I use that gift or that lesson as a gift for others or for myself as well? So, but yeah.
Absolutely. And you said it. Like, it's the mirror. We don't, it's easy to overlook, but it's like when there's a mirror, in our being vulnerable and us being authentic, that when we again, back to, I'm noticing a theme here, when we hold the space for our humanity, and really when we hold that up, it allows others to, and we're authentic, we don't hold anything back, it allows others to see the same. And then it's like, it's not so, we're not unique in our humanity, and we're also not unique in what we're facing, and that we all have our own lonesome valley to walk through, to discover what's on the other side of that, and that it's not so lonesome after all. That there's actually something beautiful in the just transcending and transforming the things that in the past that may have held us back and caused us to suffer, is actually our opening for ourselves and experiencing what's possible in our lives, but also for others. When we share our experiences, we all gain from the wisdom and the insight that from what you've overcome. And so, just again, I acknowledge you for sharing your story and sharing with us just the beautiful insight, because it's really just a powerful example of just what's possible when we discover what's on the other end of the hardship and of the difficulties life can sometimes throw in our path.
And I think it's having an openness to it, embrace it as things come, embrace it, be open to, what's to come, and just look at it as sometimes it's a blessing. So,
absolutely.
Very well said. Very well said.
Well, thank you again, Todd, so much. I really just appreciate you being here with us. And thank you all for tuning in with us. Thank you so much. This is, again, I want to take a real quick opportunity just to invite you to share your story on the stage. We are here for you to share your gifts, because we all have gifts to share, but we also have all gifts. Like, we all want to receive the gifts that we have to share. And that's why we're here, is to share your gift, to share your genius, your contributions, because when we show up for each other and we hold that space, what can we do when we actually collaborate from that? When we actually show up together to see what's possible and what we can achieve together. And that's part of our vision here. And one day is humanity rising in a connected world, with each person's unique contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. That's why we're here, and that's why we have this open invitation for you to join us. That's what we're about. I love you all. We'll see you on Thursday. We have another exciting episode. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you on Thursday. Be safe, be well, and as always, one day is today. Take care, everybody.